Bones here, and today doing a little bit of a initial review after 4 or 5 days with a RAV Pan F Pygmy 11. RAV Pan. RAV also makes RAV Vast, the tongue drums, and that's initially where, well, that's where most people know the RAV, and then they started making pans. And this one just made its way to me. Long story, but that's about as good as it gets right now. It was kind of incredible circumstances. So I want to take a couple minutes and just talk through my initial impressions. I love doing this for my own journaling process as I have pans, and to like, what did I think of them in the first week, and how does that opinion change over time, and then comparing them to other pans that I have. I think one of the things that I noticed first about this RAV pan is it's beautiful. It is aesthetically, it is maybe, well, it actually happens to look a lot like, except for the polished dimple and ding, that has the same aesthetic of the second gen pan art with the brass ring around it. And the contrast in the dark and the gold of the brass is just beautiful. 8 notes on top. It's the low pygmy scale. It means it has a half step between these two low notes. Other people make a pygmy like this. Meridian hand pans. Josh at Veritas makes his pygmies like this. My first low F pygmy was made by Meridian, and this is the same scale. Great scale for Handpan Dojo or Master the Handpan classes, by the way. It's the only pan I had for the first couple of years, and it works great for all those. Not as well as Occurred, to be honest, because that's what most of those classes and courses are using, but it is very well suited for that, for those courses. So you have the 8 notes plus your ding here, and then you have 2 notes on the bottom, and so these 2 notes, and then you have a port. It's interesting, there's no flange on the port. It doesn't, I guess what I should say, there's no lip. It's not curled under like every other pan that I have. It's just even, and it has this rubber ring. So if you look on the way the brass ring works, they call it a ring lock, and on that it has the name of the scale, F Pygmy. On the other side it says pan. This one was made in October of 2020, and it is amazing in terms of the weight of it. It is made out of, I contacted RAV, and it's made out of steel from St. Petersburg. I know at some point they were making these with SPB still, and St. Petersburg, but specifically I think they were making them using Victor Levinson's SPB shells. I am not sure on that, but I think so. And here's why I'm mentioning that. They told me it's 1.5 millimeter. It's maybe the thickest pan that I have, except for my F minor SPB. And I have several SPBs, older generations. This pan is as close to an SPB as an SPB. It feels and plays a lot like it. It is what I would call, and there's a lot of discussion about this, about the different names for pans, but I have, for my own personal collection and as I'm playing pans, I have different categories for what I call pans. And I'm not consistent, but I'm getting more and more consistent. For this sound, I was playing the ding the other day, and my son was like, sounds like wood for some reason. Sometimes people will say it sounds ceramic. Tone, the shoulder tone has that kind of like you're in a blacksmith shop and somebody brings that hammer down on that iron, the steel just right over the anvil, and it makes that just perfect pitch. Oh, rings out. Incredible. I grew up with that sound. It has that. Oh. Ooh, right there. It's what I call Pantam. The thick steel, woody, ceramic textures, really thick. and it feels buttery and creamy to play it. Hard to describe that, but the edges are soft and it feels creamy and buttery. Those would be the words I would use. It's a pleasure to touch. I just keep wanting to put my hands on it. Now, here's the thing. I would call it a Pantam. And how's it different from a hand pan? My hand pans, even the nitrided ones, so you got nitrided stainless, they are usually lighter. They're more, the sound that they make is not as contained. It's more bellowy, and it echoes in the chamber more. It has a different voice. And all the hand pans I have are like that. So I would say there are hand pans like this, or Pantams like this, woody, ceramic, texture, feels earthy, controlled. Not that it doesn't have sympathetic resonance, because it does, but controlled and soft and buttery, creamy. Pantam. Then you have the hand pan, which is usually even nitride or stainless. Like, it has a bigger, wider voice, louder voice maybe. It's not that it isn't controlled, but it's it's a very different. I'll help bring hand pans up and play them with us. So, I put SPBs in the Pantam category, at least the older generations of them. I would put this in that category. And then you have your hand pans, and then I would say, which is interesting because Pantheon Steel came up with the name for hand pan, and I would put at least the OG Halos, and I've had several Halos, but the OG Halos, I would just call them a Halo. I wouldn't call it a hand pan because it doesn't sound anything or feel anything. The rolled shell, that OG shell, is its own thing. There's nothing like it. And I would call it a Halo. You've got Pantams, you've got hand pans, you've got the Halo. You also have, I think you have to just put the hung in its own class. The first generation, second gens are there. You can instantly tell they have their own sound, and there's nothing like it. And I have them. I can play them with my other pans. It feels different. It sounds different. It's its own thing. So you have the hung. So you got Pantams, hand pans, the Halo, the hung, and then you have the sun pan. The sun pan is definitely its own thing. And I've reviewed a sun pan. If you look at the video feed on my YouTube channel, and the sun pan is its own thing. I think the space drum. I don't have a space drum, but I think the space drum could probably have its own niche in it. And they're all these instruments we play in our laps, and they have these shells, and they are built around the same general mechanics, but they do sound different, and they have their own unique qualities. So the RAV Vest I'm putting into the Pantam category, at least this one. When I play it next to my F minor SPB, I'm not sure someone could tell in a blind test which one I'm playing. To me, that's when I felt this pan and played through it for the first time. I'm like, whoa, what is this thing? One of the things I love about the pan, aside from the aesthetics, aside from the creamy, buttery feel, controlled notes, the tuning, love the harmonics. If I can find it. Is that the bottom two notes. I love these bottom two notes. So in the sequence of notes, these actually come before the F3. What do I got in there? There we go. Okay. One of you can root off of these. musically, I love it. I love having them there. I love the low F Pygmy scale. Adding these two gives me a lot of what my F2 does. Without, you don't get the F2, but it gives me most of what I have with the F2, just not with an F2 ding. Which I like having the F3 ding up here, to be honest. Musically, I think it's nicer not to jump an octave on the top shelf. So, Adrian, if you're listening, you know what I already asked for. Okay, so that's the, that's the scale. You may have noticed. So I love sympathetic resonance. Sympathetic resonance is different than crosstalk. What sympathetic resonance is, so what you're hearing the compound fifth, the C, light up whenever playing the ding. And so the ding is going to activate activating the sum. It is activating that F, but not to nearly the degree it's activating the C. So I love it. I love it because it creates a floor, a sound floor for the music. If you go to town on the ding, you could really start to make it howl. It could be overwhelming. And so, but that's to me, that's one of the signs of a pan that I love. If you don't like all of the howling, if you take a towel and I don't want to put it on those bottom notes, I'll just put it back here. It's going to absorb some of that frequency. You can move it around. So it's already quieting it down. And it will hold the sustain down. You can also put a light piece of tape around it. Versus, see the difference? I'm not hitting it harder. So it's just controlling it more. So I kind of like having the towel in there for some things, and I made 2 songs today, both called Waiting, and version 1 is without. And so because what it does is it's giving us all this resonance in that song, and I love it. I love that note. I love the sound floor. I wouldn't want it on everything. So the little towel trick is if you've got some notes that just feel like they're getting away, it'll just absorb some of the sound and it'll shorten the sustain on it. So this pan is great for percussion. Beautiful chords. Love it. What else to say about it right now? It's just a lot of fun to play. Really enjoying it. But I think there's something that happens when you start with a pan and you learn a lot of songs on that pan, and on that scale especially. Sometimes they kind of go away. So even though I have an F2 that has the same top side except for this, not coming off the F3 feels so different. The F2 on my Veritas is right here, bottom left, closest to my lap. So there's so many songs that and that note with the towel. There we go. That was interfering with it. That's the thing. If you put a towel in, depending on where you put the towel, it can fuss with those. Oh, another thing, and lots of people have different perspectives about this, but these two notes, and when you turn the pan upside down, gravity affects the note so that maybe just a little off. They sound pretty close. When I got the pan, they were both sharp, and one of the makers that I know showed me a trick that if you use a magnet, like use a little rare earth magnet and you just move it around really carefully, you often can bring that note into tune and just flatten it a little bit. Lots of people don't like to use magnets. This one was already a little bit out of tune, so I didn't mind. It's not going to hurt anything, and I'll just have it next time I see Colin or Adrian. I'll have them just give these a couple hits, which expert tuners can do, and they'll knock these right back perfectly in tune. But in the meantime, having the magnets in there made those sound really nice. So this is a, what is it, E flat, and that's an E flat, and this was off just enough that if you touch these two at the same time, when I got it, it was rough. And this is a D flat. Something like that. Great for finger really strong interstitials. Again, just so good for percussive. So if you find one of these, I don't know if they're all this nice. I know the sound of it is fantastic. I'm so pleased with it. Also, they've brushed brass onto the ding and then onto the tone fields and the dimples, and they even did it on the bottom. No one sees this. The other thing is, I found this. They told, when I contacted RAV, they said, hey, WhatsApp us. So we're WhatsApping, and they told me about this. There's a passport, like all the information you want is in the passport, and it came with the bag, which I'll have to show in the next review. The bag is amazing. It's a protected hard shell bag, but it has, like, the way the back is built, the rounded part doesn't come in your back. It's got a flat part. It's so smartly designed. And then there were these little zippers, so I unzipped it, and inside was this really cool passport, leather pouch, clear window, and it had a little passport, told you all about the pan, and then it had the name of the maker, the tuner and the date that it was finished. Such a cool touch. This was back in October of 2020. Really special. So I would not be surprised if this is the same steel, very similar steel that was used in my SBBs. It feels so similar to especially the 2014 SBB. Well, that's what I got. Anyway, this is mostly for me. If you made it this far, you are nuts about pans. And welcome to the party. Cheers.